How's everybody doing today? Chilling out? I hope everybody has a cup of coffee in them because I'm on like my third. I don't know if it's working yet, but I'm just going to keep drinking coffee until something good happens. I wanted to talk to you guys today about video editing. It's something we've done a lot recently on the channel, trying to have discussions to step up our game. You guys have the ability to ask me questions. A lot of times you guys will ask me questions in the comment sections of my videos, which is fantastic. It's the easiest way to get in touch with me, to ask me questions about any type of thing. But a lot of times there's questions that I can't answer really well in the comments section, so I try to do them here live. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I do my best. So if you have some questions specifically about any types of video editing techniques, if there's something you're trying to learn in a specific video editing software, you guys know I use Movavi and Filmora mostly for my daily driver stuff. So if there's anything I can answer in there that I have the information, I'm happy to take those questions. Got some good people in the chat today. I'd like to say hi to Mr. Paul Peck. Good to see you, Mr. Paul Peck. Tish from The Art of Saving. Good to see you. Mr. Doug Hewson. Always a pleasure, my friend. And right off the bat, our friends at TubeSpanner hitting us up with a super chat. Really appreciate that. You're the best. You're just the best. I love Danielle. If you haven't tried TubeSpanner, it's a product that's in beta right now, that's out. You can actually sign up for TubeSpanner and start using it, but it's going to have an official launch coming very soon, and you're going to be really excited. This tool is going to be killer because it does a lot of things that creators really need these tools to do for them, including things like being able to make cool thumbnails, remove the background, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be great. So listen, let's get right into this thing. Let's get right into what we have for questions here. Let me pull the comments up here. One of the questions we have is, what is the best editing software from Filmora? That's a great question. Filmora offers really two different video editing softwares. One is the basic Filmora. I don't want to call it basic. It's the one that they started making, that they've been making for years. Excuse me, which has gone through different iterations. It started at Filmora. I think I started using it around Filmora 7. And now it's up to Filmora 10, which they use an X, the Greek, the Roman numeral for 10. So it's Filmora X is Filmora 10. That's the one I use as a daily driver. We've talked about that. It has a very ease of use workflow, a lot of pre-built stuff you can click, draw, and drag down and drop in your timeline, and they'll work. They also, they get asked a lot of times over the years, like, make Filmora do more. And what happened was, it was never designed to be that kind of software. It's supposed to be an ease of use utility software for video editing, but they got asked so many times to make the software do things that it just was never going to be able to do, that they built a different software called Filmora Pro. Now, Filmora Pro looks nothing like the standard Filmora that we're used to using. It has a lot more features. Even the features it has that Filmora 10 has, they're far more deep. Like the motion tracking in Filmora Pro goes much deeper than regular Filmora. But the trade-off is it's got a much steeper learning curve. All that easy click, drag, drop, make things happen quickly doesn't exist in Filmora Pro. It's really designed to be a more advanced video editor, and that one grows every day too. Filmora does too. They've added stuff over time to try to beef it out. But it's still a very simple intermediate video editing software for fast edits to be able to work quickly. And Filmora Pro is their higher tier, different software, but they're completely different. You have to have a different license for each. Your license from one doesn't apply to the other. So it's real. They both have free trials though. Most of the softwares out there have some sort of free trial, usually with like a watermark, or they'll have a limit of how long you can use it for, a week or something, with the exception of DaVinci that has an entire free version with limited features that has no watermark and you can use indefinitely. But I suggest going out there and trying some of these ones and seeing what fits for you. Movavi gives you like a full week of complete usage, no watermarks, like a 7-day trial, and you can test that one out and see if you like it. So I'm a big fan of finding what's right for you. I think sometimes people think there's one tool that's the perfect tool for everybody, and it just isn't. It depends on the kind of content you're making and the things you need. If you don't need crazy features, you're making, video edits for YouTube, then you probably, like most of the stuff I edit is either on Movavi or Filmora 10. I do have Pro, I do have DaVinci Resolve, I do use them sometimes for specific things. But in general, most of my basic stuff comes from just real simple edits. It's more production, what I do when I'm setting up my shot. So try them out, see which one's right for you. If you like it, if it feels natural, then use the one that feels right for you. Let me see. I'm just going to pull up some questions right out of here. How do you make a video moment funny by using music? It's funny. I've talked a lot about that. I use a video editing software called Reaper that I love. It's an audio editing software called Reaper. It's tripping out. See, I haven't had enough coffee yet. And I've talked about it in some of my in my videos on how I layer sounds. And I think learning to have what we call a soundscape, sound design, is important because a lot of times I'll take music and I'll pace my video edits to the song I'm choosing. Like if I have something happen where I stop and look at the camera, I'll literally cut the music and do like a record scratch, like the needles being pulled across the song, like, and I'll stop and I'll look at the camera and then I'll start the music back up again. So a lot of times it's just pacing of what's happening in the shot where I want something to happen a certain way. Is what really makes all emotions come across. Not just funny, if you're trying to be dramatic, if you're trying to be humorous, if you're trying to be serious about something, all of those musics have different tones to them. So, you don't want to have this deep, heavy, dramatic music necessarily when you're trying to be lighthearted and funny and just, happy-go-lucky kind of thing. So a lot of times I try to find music that meets the mood of the thing that I'm creating, and then I work up from there. Layering sound effects in is a big part of it too. If you excuse me, frog in my throat. If you learn how to layer in sound effects with your music and create layers of sound, that's a big part of how you'll create a better edit. And I've got a few videos on my channel recently where I talked about that, how to make things look more cinematic, where I used, anywhere 16 or 18 layers worth of different audio sounds and music to beef things up, to create layers. I think sometimes people think, here's my video, here's my audio, and there's 2 tracks and that's it. And you maybe like put music underneath your video and that's all you're going to do. I create layers. Like the way you would paint, ask Tish, the way you would paint is, you'd bring in a lot of colors, to create layers and densities. And that's how things become deep. They have depth to them. Video is the same way. Different layers of layering video and layering audio really helps your video final project have dimensionality to it, more depth. The tonality of the music, the way things layer up can change the feeling. Because just a lot of times people, forget that, we're trying to create story, even in something as simple as a tutorial. You're trying to create a story that people can follow along. What are we doing? Is there a problem? Are we trying to solve it? Let's create that story arc of what we're doing. Even in my simple tutorials, I always start with the thing I'm showing you how to do. Here's the problem. People are trying to learn how to do X. I show them that I've solved it, and then I step backwards and go through the arc of, well, let me show you how I did that, and I work through the story arc. So I'll pick like the right music I think fits under my stuff. For me, it's I write a lot of my own music. Can you hear my cats running around? I write a lot of the stuff that goes under my videos because I have all these guitars and I like hearing, so I'll write music that just does what I need it to do, like something like this. So that's a little more mellow. I use this more upbeat one. So it's just different ones that I like to create my own music because I can create the moods I want to create. But there's so many great assets out there. If you go to the YouTube audio library, I think a lot of people forget that. If you go into YouTube Studio, meaning your analytics inside of your YouTube channel, go into Studio, and on the left drop-down menu, you'll see that they have audio library in there that you can pull music and sound effects out, and they're all free to use as long as your content is hosted on YouTube. You can't take the sound effects and music and like use it for a client project and try to sell it or put it, make videos for Facebook or Instagram necessarily. But you can make videos on YouTube. You can host them other way. You could share the link on Facebook. You could share the link on Instagram or Twitter, but they have to be hosted. The stuff has to live on YouTube first, and all that stuff is free, or it'll require you to put a little bit of an attribution. It'll tell you in each one that you click a little bit of text and it puts an attribution. You put that into the description of your video and you're good to go. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Feel button. Howdy, Daniel. Howdy to you, Feel button. How you doing today? Good to see you. I'm just pulling some random questions out. Feel free to ask me whatever you think. I can't seem to get a hang of audio ducking in Filmora. Help. Yeah, that's a good question. The ducking feature is pretty cool. Let me see. Let me do this. there's two ways to do it. There's an audio ducking that does it, and I showed on my Filmora X tutorial, I show how to use the ducking where it'll do it automatically and it'll pull it down around things. But one of the things I really like to do is if I'm doing this, let me stretch this out a bit, and let me find a piece of music to bring in here, and I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Audio. Let's see what we have for audio. Have any music in here? Hopefully. We'll see. It doesn't really matter. Anything music. Let me pick up music here. Okay, so here's a music track, right? Let me get this full screen so you can see it a little bit better. Right here. Okay, let me pull this out of the way. So here's a music track, right? And I bring that down into a track underneath my main footage here. Let me stretch it out. So what I'll do is I'll pay attention to where I'm talking. One of the things you really want to watch is, you know, in the audio track here, here's me talking, the blue, that's the audio from this particular video track, and I just brought in music. Sometimes what I'll do, like I'll have like the music start a little earlier, and if the music is starting earlier, I'm watching that peak. It's like, oh, okay, here's the music starts playing, but then I start speaking right here. You can see that little lump with my voice comes in. So I'll click on this particular music track, and I'll put a keyframe. And the way to do that is you have this, see how I have the green track of music highlighted? If I left click on that in the upper left, right underneath the fader, there's a little dot button right there. If I click on that, it adds that keyframe here, and it'll hold that volume, but I now want it to track down a bit. So I'll move a little bit forward, say right about here. I'll add another keyframe, and then I can pull the volume down. And see how it pulls? It leaves everything up to the first keyframe. And then once I've decided, okay, I've told it to stay at that volume there, then I can pull it down. And I just kind of adjust it like that. So I get it to move the way I want it to move, and that'll duck that down for me. Another thing you can do is if you move forward in the timeline, you don't even need to add the keyframe. If you just grab the fader and pull it up, it automatically adds a keyframe. See that? Except you'll see there was a swell. It starts swelling up. The reason sometimes we add an extra keyframe, I just got rid of that keyframe by clicking Control plus Z on my keyboard. That undoes any previous move I just did. So let's say I wanted it to stay down to here. I'll add another keyframe. That means it'll hold it at this volume from the last keyframe to this one. And then I want it to start coming back up. I'll move that playhead to where I think I want it to come back up. And then I can just grab the fader in the upper left and pull it back up. So it stays down here and then it comes back up. So what I've technically done is I've ducked this section, right? And a lot of times I'll do it without even listening. If I have a section where I'm talking and I can see I'm talking, and then maybe it gets quiet, I'll just find that section, add the keyframes visually, and I won't even think about listening. I listen afterward just to get the volume right, but I don't necessarily duck everything by listening. I'll start by looking like, okay, there's where my vocal comes in. So let me duck it there, and then I'll bring it up and down. So the audio keyframes are really, really helpful in Filmora for doing that, just controlling those levels up and down. And ducking your audio down. And it's just it's something you learn to listen for, finding the right level of where you want your music behind your track, because sometimes you can overdo it and sometimes you can underdo it. Sometimes the music's so quiet, it doesn't create the effect. So you're always kind of swelling things in and out and learning to listen for what you like and what sounds good overall. A lot of times I'll listen to stuff like Peter McKinnon. If you guys are fans of Peter McKinnon's channel, he's a photographer, but he does these great vlogs, and he uses a lot of music in his, and he'll use 2 or 3 different songs just for different attitudes and emotions during one of his videos, and he'll duck them in and out. It'll come in strong, and then when he starts talking, he ducks it way down, he keyframes that way down, and then he'll, when he stops talking, he'll punch it back up, just like I just kind of showed. So learning those ins and outs of just kind of working around your voice, super, super important. It can really push the envelope of how deep in layers your video can end up being. Let me see. Let me see what this question is. Can you make a series on Adobe Software? I haven't used Adobe that much. Let me grab a sip of coffee here. I've used it a bit, and I usually push people towards my friend Lila's channel, Lila, on YouTube. She does a lot of really great Adobe Premiere Pro tutorials, and my friend Jay Littman, who's been on the channel, has also done DaVinci Resolve. So a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll have those guys come on and talk about it, because I like this. If someone is already doing a great job, I like to push people towards their channels. What happens with me is I get a lot of people who use these simpler ones like Filmora or Movavi, and if I switch to Adobe, then all the people who are here for like the other ones go, I don't have Adobe, so I don't want to watch this. So I try to cater to people who use more intermediate software most of the time. That's sort of my niche, showing how to do more with less. So definitely check out Lila's channel. Hey, Blaine, how you doing, pal? Thanks for the $20 super chat. Super chats always help, and you always get your question pulled up. Adobe, anyone that gives their time and expertise to help others always has my respect. Thank you, Blaine. I appreciate that. Thanks, Daniel, for helping us grow our channels and improve our editing skills. You make YouTube a better place. I really appreciate those kind words, Blaine. That really means a lot. The super chat really helps out too. That's the kind of thing that allows me to, buy better gear and do more things and spend more time actually working on the content and upping my game. And that's always been my. It's funny, like a lot of times people ask me, like, why don't you do more Filmora tutorials? And I have like 100 and something Filmora tutorials on my channel. It's like 3/4 of the stuff on my channel is Filmora. But the value prop, I never wanted to be a Filmora channel. I wasn't just the Filmora channel. They have one of those, and it's very good. My goal was always to teach people how to make better content and grow their YouTube channels, because those two things together, like you got to learn how to edit, you got to learn how to make content that does well on the platform, and then once you make it, you got to upload it, and you got to figure out, how to get it optimized, and then how to grow a channel. Because a lot of people out there that I've talked to in my community, I ask them, like, why are you making videos? Now, some people are doing it because they're trying to earn a living on the side doing some video production, but the majority of people who come to this channel are trying to make content to put on YouTube. So that's really where I put most of my focus, is how those two things come together, making content and growing YouTube channels, and how those fit together. And sometimes I use Filmora a lot. I talk about Filmora, but I also use Movavi, so I talk about Movavi. I talk about Reaper because I use Reaper. So I talk about the tools I'm familiar with that I use on a daily basis, because I have a little more experience with them. Let's see. Please don't spam the chat. That's the only thing I ask. Asking a question 900 times, I'll answer your question if I see it, but putting it in there 40 times is just spam. Please, it doesn't make a good experience for anyone. So ask once, I'll do my best to find them. Your question is how to edit a gaming video with memes. I never really understand that question. I guess I don't live in that space. If you're creating memes, that's one thing. If you're stealing other people's memes, stuff that's out there, be very careful. I see a lot of people do that. They'll try to take something they've seen on Google or on Instagram or something, and they'll try to repurpose it for their own content. And you have to be very careful, because people who create things, that's their content. And if they're on YouTube using that stuff already, they can channel strike you. They can just go, boom, nope, I want that taken down, hit them with a strike. So be very careful about that. But in terms of doing video game stuff, my son right now is actually, it's a question I get a lot. So it's a great question about video game, like montages and things like that. I have never covered that on my channel, but I'm going to. My son is a gamer. He's a big Fortnite guy. And he's been gathering some clips. I said, just grab some clips for me so I can show people how to edit that and put them together. Because I think that's a big question I get a lot, is gamers are like, how do I up my gaming? How do I make gaming content look better? So I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. Get me some gaming clips, and I'll see what I can do with it. So there will be a gaming editing tutorial coming. I don't know which software I'll do it in. It'll probably be either it'll be Filmora or Movavi or something simple that I try to teach the technique. The biggest thing I try to show is, I'm usually trying to show you something that no matter which one of these softwares you're using, you should be able to see the technique and go, oh, he used keyframes to do that. I have software that has keyframes. And it's more about learning the thing, the technique, as opposed to which software you're using. Because if you're familiar with your software and I show you how to do something with keyframing, you go, yeah, I have keyframing in mine, I can do that. Or if I show you how to dissolve something, to use a dissolve transition, usually you have a fade or a dissolve in whichever one you're using, and you use that. And that's sort of the idea, is to do it that way. Let me just see here. I'm missing some of these super chats. Let me play catch up here a bit. Scroll. I'm getting old. Again, I have to thank I have to thank Tube Spanner, who's for the 50-pound super chat. For coffee, a candles and hair product was the comment. No kidding, right? The candles. My candles aren't real. They're fake candles. They're the battery-operated electronic ones. Because I would light this place on fire. I would burn my studio down if I put anything real with flame. And my hair is absolutely flammable. So we want no part of that happening anywhere along the way here. Let me play some catch up. Blaine, there's you. Here we go, right here. John Ivan Art. How long should an intro be? I don't want to lose the viewer because they think the video isn't the actual subject matter. That's a great question. You know, hey, I've shown on my channel how to make like intros with Filmora. And I've shown how to do intros in general, just technique. I'm not a huge fan of like branding intros, you know, like, oh, welcome, you know, the channel and the name and all that stuff. The reason being exactly what you said. People show up and they go, okay, the video is supposed to be about this. I hit it. If the video is supposed to be about how to cure poison ivy, you want it to start and go, hey, if you have poison ivy, let me show you a few things that you can do to get rid of that itch quickly and get right to it. Don't be like, you know, oh, branding, all kinds of stuff, music playing. It's distracting and it's not what most people are there for. So unless there's a very specific reason you're using branding, people know the channel name. They've clicked on the channel. Win them with the content. Don't feel like you need to, and this is true with outros too. Don't feel that you need to put big intro sections in your videos. Get right to the thing you're trying to do. I think we all grew up on things like television, John Ivan, you know, in movies where they had big intros and there was all this, you know, this production. But if you even watch things like Marvel movies nowadays, when a Marvel movie starts, they get right to the action. It's like, boom, right into the action. So I think we can, even movies have learned it's important to do those things to get right to the story or the value that you're trying to get. So if you're going to do an intro, I prefer to do like a CTA, because a lot of times if you've seen my content, I'll show you I'll show a trick. Like I'll do something at the beginning of the video where I'm actually doing the edit that I'm going to teach you how to do. And what I do is instead of an intro, I do a CTA, meaning a call to action. And I put that between the intro hook and then where I start the tutorial. And it's only about 2.8 seconds long. I think my newest one is even shorter. It might be under 2. And it just says, you know, it just quickly kind of shows my branding and, you know, that kind of thing. Or it'll say things like, you know, I had one that used to say, click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be part of the conversation. Boom. And that was it. And it was real quick. And it just kind of was a push to remind people, hey, don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're seeing. I think those are cool. But those big, long things, I would not go more than 2-3 seconds tops on any kind of intro, or I think you'll end up hurting your audience retention in the long run. We got another one here from Architectural Sheet Metal 101. Thanks for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate that, my friend. Can you touch on the production side, best workflow for generating content before the edit? That's a great question. Boy, that's a great question. The production side. Yeah, I've talked about this before. What I tend to do is I tend to batch shoot a lot of stuff if I can. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I've got 2 or 3 different ideas that I want to do. And for me, I start with the hook, the main intro part. Like what's the meat and potatoes of what I'm doing? Now, this is my workflow, okay? You have to understand my structure. My structure has worked out that I show people how to do specific things. So I'll tend to put together a cool hook where if I'm teaching someone how to do like a crumpled paper effect where it looks like I've crumpled the screen down, I'll actually work that out and see, can I make it look right? Where it looks like I'm crumpling up my own screen and throwing it away. And there I am again. I don't know if you guys saw that one I did in Movavi. I'll work it out and go, okay, once I've got the hook worked out, then I go, okay, I can make this happen. I think it looks pretty good. And then I'll go on and I'll film the tutorial part where I actually screen capture. Screen capturing is, I should mention this too, a lot of people forget that this is a possibility. Right in Filmora, if you're using Filmora, Movavi has this too in their video suite. If right up here on top of where you bring things in, if you click the record drop down, you can click on record PC screen, and what it does is you'll see this pop up right there. And that's a built-in screen recorder that you can actually expand the settings, and you can decide whether you want to, what bit rate, frame rate you want to record, what size, how much of the screen. And I do it that way, where I'll then do my screen capture live. I actually put a mic here and I work through it and I talk. So I'm recording and I'm doing it at the same time. And then I'll go back and I'll edit it way down. I just want to get the most important things. And then I edit that whole section. So I have my hook, I get the body of it, and then I'll have my outro. And usually I film my intro and my outro at the same time. So like if I'm filming the thing, showing people how to do the crumpled paper effect, I'll show them how to do that. And once I've kind of got those pieces I'm filming, I'll also stop along the way and say, if you want to learn more video editing tips, tricks, and techniques, click on the video that's on screen now, the one I'll link down below, peace. And I'll have that all ready. So the on-screen part stuff I do first, the screen capture stuff I do separate, and then I work them together and try to make them flow properly. But that's really it. One of the big things is you want to think about it. I've done enough of these that I know what I'm trying to do. But in other content where I'm really showing people like how to grow their channel more rapidly, or use some YouTube features, I'll use bullet points. I write scripts that actually go, okay, you got to mention this, cover that. Either I'll just free form it and I'll just film a bunch of stuff and take the takes that are actually, the best takes where I'm not stuttering and saying and ah as much. And then I'll use those. But sometimes I write a full script. If there's something very punchy and specific, I want it to be this long, I'll write the whole script. And it's funny, that's another technique in terms of, your workflow. Writing a script that you can follow, you got to learn how to read a script so that it sounds like you. I always try to write my scripts in my own voice. So I'll try to write things where I might write something where it'll say, if you'd like to learn how to do the annoying orange effect in Filmora 9 or whatever you're using, stick around, I'll show you how. I write that down, go, okay, make sure you put that in there. And I'll actually say, if you want to learn how to do the annoying orange effect in Filmora 9, stick around, I'll show you how. So I learned to read in my own voice so that I can look at it. It doesn't feel like I'm reading. That's another little scripting trick. I think scripting videos is very important. Sometimes people just film stuff with no idea of where they're going. So building out a content structure, knowing where you're going to drop things. I'm going to hit it hard with a good hook. I'm going to maybe do a quick CTA or a short intro and then get right into the meat of it. And then at the very end, I'm going to just get out. So I break those sections up so that I can work on them individually. And I'm always trying to figure out, do I need, during the middle of my screen capture, do I want to put myself back on screen saying, something. So if there's specific lines, if I have a rough outline of a script, when I'm filming the talking head stuff with me on screen, a lot of times I'll read 2 or 3 of those lines going, I'd like to have me come back on screen. Because sometimes staring at the Filmora screen capture all day long, if it's, 3-4 minutes long, it's like, that's a lot of time staring without any visual interruption. So I'll film a couple of lines of me talking to come back to me. And you can do that, anyone out there. If you're a Paul Peck, right? Paul Peck Drywall. Hey, Mr. Paul Peck. Good to see you, Mr. Paul Peck. If he's out there and he's showing how to do a technique like a skim coating a ceiling or doing something like that, and he knows, a lot of times I've seen him do ones where he'll show the technique and he'll do a voiceover. But there's 2 ways to do that. You can either voice over something, or you can stop and go, oh, there's a couple things I want to mention while I've got my camera right here and I'm filming on scene. I'm going to pull myself up and go, hey, make sure when you use this trowel in this way that you want to, clean the edge or, so there's certain pieces a lot of times, knowing that if you want to interject parts of what you're going to film, having that structure ahead of time is super important. I hope that answered your question. Let me see. Let me grab some questions from in here. Private chat. We did have, there was a question from Havindu Watawi Watawala. Boy, I hope I pronounced that right. Asking, how to make a proper script for the video. Is it compulsory, and what are the points I must include? That's exactly what I was just talking about. Scripting. Think about breaking things up. I'm glad TubeSpanner's in the house because they have a scripting tool they're working on that's going to make scripting super easy for you. So I can't wait till that's launched. But when you script, just think about whatever your video's about, right? If you're a gaming channel and you're saying, oh, today I'm going to show people, I'm going to do a video about can I beat whatever level of this game using like the weakest weapon available. Maybe that's what you're going to do, right? I just want to do this, see if I can do it with like, beat this level with like my, whatever it is. Maybe it's maybe you're doing, can I beat this level with a pickaxe or something, right, in Fortnite. So then go, okay, I want to do this. I want to make sure I get right to it, like that. Maybe start the video where I'm showing me killing people with just a pickaxe when they have like really great weapons. So sometimes I'll go like, I'll take the most highlighted part, the important part, and stick that right at the beginning to get people revved up to see what it is they're going to see in the video. So thinking about where people might tune out. In most cases on YouTube or in any video, people tend to lose focus right off the bat. I talk about this a lot. There's a big difference between like movies and YouTube. YouTube is a very different pace. In movies and stuff, you've got to create the story and move it along, and you've got to have a story arc and build out characters. In YouTube, you can do edits that you would never do in a movie. You can fast cut. You can, like, I can sit here and I can say lines and I can go, I blew that line. Let me take it again. And I can just cut, right? That's what we call fast cuts. I can just do jump cuts, fast cuts right to the next line that I said the line right. And people are fine with it. If you did that in a movie, if it was like in the middle of a movie, you saw like a jerky cut where it was one scene, the same scene, all of a sudden it wasn't a smooth transition. And it's like the same camera shot, but it just jumped. People would be like, what the heck was that? You go like, that was a mistake, right? But on YouTube, we totally accept that. Where YouTube viewers are dialed into that style and flow. So there is a certain flow to YouTube that exists that you start learning how to get right to the thing. I tell people a lot of time, I use this old phrase from the music industry where producers would say when we wrote a song, don't bore us, get to the chorus. Because that, like, the chorus is the best part, right? Don't take too long to get to the best part of the song. Make sure you do your intro, your verse, and get right to the big hook. That's what people want to hear. So that's important. I always brought that with me when I do video editing. Don't spend too long before you get to the part they really want to see. Because people, if you ever notice, if you look at your retention reports on a YouTube video, you'll see a lot of people leave quickly right off the bat. So I try to get right to the thing, and then I try to pay attention to pacing. I like to, when I'm doing a script, I think about how I can film stuff that will visually change up. Because when we're doing a live stream, see, I'm just sitting here looking at you. This would be a very hard video to make if I just turned it into a video. I leave these up for the replay. But people, I don't get the kind of views on a live stream that I get on an edited piece of content that's shorter, succinct, right to the point, more visually stimulating, and does all the right things. Like, bang, it's all designed to move fast and quick and get to the point. Because people like that visual change up. They want it quick, they want the information, and they want to move on. So when you're figuring out your script, make sure you do those kind of things where you say, okay, how do I do this so I don't hang too long and I move on to the next section and keep the whole storyline moving forward. Corona, you're doing a great Corona Moto vlog. Yes, you're doing a great job of helping people out there. Keep making videos and lives. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the super chat. I can't tell you guys, all of the super chats mean the world to me. As you know, I really try to create content that really doesn't ask much of the viewer, right? So I try to bring sponsors in. It's great when you guys super chat, but I rarely ask you please go ahead and super chat. It's the kind of thing if you want to, that's great. I love it. It really helps out, but I never ask for that stuff. I always want to provide my thing to you guys for free. Then I let the sponsors come in and I let them help, foot the bill for all the stuff. That's why a lot of times you'll see different sponsors mentioned on the channel that are in line with the kind of thing I want to do. Like, for example, today, our sponsor today is actually a company called Spreadshop that I've talked about, who, if you guys ever notice, a lot of times in the live streams, you'll see that or under my videos, you'll see I have a merch shelf. That merch shelf is like stuff you can buy, t-shirts, mugs, things like that. Those are all done through Spreadshop. That now is integrated with YouTube. I'll be doing a video showing you how to set up Spreadshop with your merch shelf. But you can make all kinds of merchandise yourselves and for free using their service and pin all that stuff right into descriptions in your videos and make money. Those are the kind of companies I like to work with. They're really great people, and they help creators make more money. They don't ask anything. Free to set up your own Spreadshop. They do all the printing, and once someone buys a shirt, they print that shirt, they send it out, and they split the profit with you. Doesn't cost you a penny. That's the kind of stuff I love doing. I love working with great companies like that who come in and say, yeah, we'd love to sponsor a video. You're going to help people make better content? Yeah, just mention our name and we'll talk about whatever you want. So definitely, there's going to be links down in the description here. If you want to set up a Spreadshop account, please do check them out. But that's the kind of thing I like to do. I appreciate the super chats, but I really appreciate you guys asking great questions and, showing up and keeping the pace moving here. It's because a lot of times you guys will push me in directions that I didn't think of. Like I'll get questions in the comments or in the live chat where you guys ask me things and I go, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever talked about that. Let me see if I can make that happen. And I usually try to shout those people out in those videos. A lot of times you'll see a tutorial I did and I'll say, so-and-so ask, and I'll put them on screen because it was a really great question. Let's see. Let me pull up some questions here. Finally ended up getting free to watch your video. Yeah, boy. I agree. What do you do to make your video unique? I have a channel about Rubik's Cubes. Love from India. Love back at you, pal. How to make it unique. So if you have a channel about Rubik's Cubes, this is a great question, right? About Rubik's Cube. What I would do is I would think about always think about the conversation you want to be in. All right. So if you're making video content and you're saying, okay, I talk about Rubik's Cubes. So I want to, my target audience is other people who are interested in learning about the Rubik's Cube, how to solve the Rubik's Cube, maybe learn about, because I know Rubik's Cube has the standard one that's 3x3, but they have they have a tiny one that's 2x2. They have bigger ones. So I would be covering all of those and do videos that are compelling. Like, is it easier to solve a 2x2 Rubik's Cube than a 3x3, right? And then you like scramble it up and see how quickly you can get through them. But don't give away that information. Just put the two on the screen, like your hands holding which one, like which one's harder. You'd think the smaller one's is easier, but is it? And make videos like that, and then really start thinking about what other people might be thinking about. Because what questions would people ask about a Rubik's Cube? Teaching people the strategy of how to solve a Rubik's Cube, like teach them the basics over a series of videos, make them short. The first thing you need to understand is how to get your first side completed or your base. I don't know how to solve one, obviously, but teach them the patterns and go, boom, here's the first thing. I'm going to show you how to solve this. Boom. And now once you get that done, let me show you the next step in the next video and link to the next video. That kind of structure and thinking about how your viewer acts, trying to reach those viewers and think like they do and answer the kind of questions they have. That's what could really help you script, figure out how to make the content and decide on thumbnails, titles, all of that stuff, and the way you're pacing your video. Really important stuff. Great question. I got a great question here from Ariel Isafas. I'm just going to hack everybody's name today. I'm going to call it Ariel. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Daniel. You're a genius. I love Filmora Tutorials. I don't miss one, and you seem to be a nice guy. Greetings from Argentina. Greetings from New England. Sometimes I'm a nice guy. Sometimes I'm a pain in the butt. Depends who you talk to. I love doing the Filmora tutorials. I've done so many of them. I think we talked about this. I've moved away from them a bit because I did so many that it started interfering with my ability to do anything else. So I felt like I had almost answered every question there was to answer, and I moved away from them. I'm focusing more on technique now. Sometimes I talk about Filmora, sometimes it's Movavi, sometimes it's neither. But it's really about videos, creating content, getting them onto YouTube, and growing a YouTube channel, which a lot of that stuff isn't specific to Filmora. But I like to answer Filmora questions too, because Filmora is still my daily driver. And as long as it is my daily driver, then I really like to talk about the things that I use, because it makes sense. If I'm using something every day, either Filmora or Movavi, then I'll talk about those because it's right in front of me. And a lot of you guys out there are similar, use either Filmora or Movavi. So those are the things I tend to come back and lean to. Tube Spanner, different cubes. I've been trying to find the best one myself. There you go, right? There's Tube Spanner, Danielle from Tube Spanner, giving you a great tip on how to figure out the kind of content you might want to make. There's always an angle when you're making content. Here's the big thing I want to talk to you guys about. When you're making content, I think sometimes people get distracted by video editing software features. Like, Daniel, teach me how to do this cool effect, or why doesn't Filmora do, I want to be able to remove the background and change and put me in a different place. Most of the really successful creators on YouTube don't rely heavily on video edits to sell their content. That's not all of them. There are some like channels that are high animation and stuff like that, or high video editing techniques that do it. But the vast majority of content on the platform isn't doing super fancy edits. It's very simple stuff. Most of the fancy stuff is done during the production phase, setting up the lighting, getting the shot right, trying to make it look more cinematic with the camera angles and the lighting and getting the right lens and getting the right subject matter, using the right focal length and all, getting the exposure triangle working properly so what you're filming looks really great and the story's worked out. That's so much more important than putting in I got to learn a fancy warp transition. Does anyone care? Does anyone watch a video because you used a warp transition? Or do they watch a video because that video brought value, right? The content you made answered a question, put something into their hands that they needed, gave them something they wanted to watch and satisfied them. So think about that more than anything when you're editing. Really think about how to satisfy those viewers. Super, super important to moving things along because I think sometimes people get kneecapped and crippled by the fact that they go, if I have a better video editing software, my videos will be better. And nothing could be further from the truth. It really is about learning to think like a viewer and think how to create content as a thing, filming it, putting it together, and using more simple edits. Mike Lewis, thank you for the $20 super chat, my friend. I really, really appreciate all of these super chats. It means the world. Daniel, thank you for your videos. I can't tell you how helpful you've been and how much I have learned from you. Your time and effort is immeasurable. I really appreciate that. That's really what I try to do, Mike, and I appreciate the kind words and the super chat. I always tell people too, some people get worried. They come to a video and they have a question and they go, I hope it's all right to ask this question. It's not about the video that I'm on. I'm just using the comments section. Absolutely feel free to ask any question you want on any video. I don't care if you're asking a completely unrelated question to the video that you might have found of mine. I answer all those comments get filtered to me as a batch. It just shows me comments. So I don't care if it relates to that video, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I always do my best to answer as many questions as possible because I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the questions. You took the time to say something to me. I try to take the time to say something back and answer questions when I can. Callie McCarthy, welcome to the channel memberships. This is really important. You're going to see that on my channel, there's a memberships tab if you go to my channel. And if you scroll down, there'll be a list of options in there. Those are all the things that are now available to you. And one of the things that's available is my Facebook members only group. That is a place that you definitely want to join. Make sure you put your channel URL, just link the URL when you apply to go into the group so I can check it against because I get a lot of requests. It's only for paid members. And in there, we talk about how to grow your YouTube channels. We talk about editing tips and tricks. We do our own members only live stream where I can actually pull up channels and we talk about some of what does your edit look like? What does your channel look like? So that's a really great place to be. Welcome aboard and welcome to the battalion. Let me dive into some of these questions here. Let's see. Here's a question I get a lot. How do you do the big brain effect in Filmora? And the big brain effect is where someone's on screen and like they take the head and expand it. Unfortunately, Filmora doesn't currently have any kind of effect that will let you do that. Well, effectively. Did I just use the word effect too many times in the same sentence? Let me show you something here. So like if you're, let me add to stream. Let me pull up here. So here's a piece of footage. There's the ability to stretch and skew like your face on screen doesn't really exist. They do have, under the effects, they do have a distort that does, where is it? Let me go up to included, distort. This is it right here. The distort feature. And see what it does. It stretches and skews everything, but you can't control it. You can't say, oh, I just want to stretch and skew your face. You may be able to do it with layers, possibly, but this isn't one that's easy to do. A lot of other video editing software will allow you to select an area and just stretch and skew that particular area. Whereas Filmora doesn't, under the effects here, you'll see now in the upper left, if I click on that video down in the timeline, let me make this bigger. Let me hide this. If I click on this down in the timeline, then in the upper left, you'll see that under the videos tab, the video effects box is now checked because I've added an effect. If I open up that drop down, here is the distort feature. So anytime you add an effect to your any of your videos in the timeline, those new effects will end up listed under the video tab under the video effects. So right now you can adjust, like the amplitude in here. You can change the frequency of it. You can change the blend from alpha to full effect. And you can get super distorted, but I can't really control which portion I distort well. And I think that's just one of those things. If you really want to do that, if that's something you're going to do a lot of, if you're constantly going to do that, I would look into finding another software that does that better. DaVinci Resolve is a great one for that. Let's see. We got some new people involved. What do I got? Lauren Lullabies, welcome to the memberships, channel memberships. Again, the same thing. Go to the memberships tab on my channel. You go down to the drop down. You'll see all this new content that's available to you, and you'll see the ability to join my Facebook members only group. So please do so. Very important. I'll make sure I get everybody in here. Kelly as a member. Oh, I see Ariel's a member too. These are going by so fast. Ariel also welcome to the channel memberships program. Again, yes, definitely go to the memberships tab of my channel. Go down to the drop down. You'll see the link to get into my Facebook group. Go in there, drop your URL to your YouTube channel so I know who you are, and I go, okay, because sometimes your name on Facebook might be different than your channel, so I don't recognize it. So I just have to double check it. So yeah, welcome aboard. It's a ton of fun in there. That group does really well. We've had a lot of members in there doing really well. The vast majority of our members in there who started out small are all up to, hitting 10,000 subscribers is like a daily event in there. This really great strategies group for growing channels, and it allows us to sit more one-on-one because it's a small group, and I can actually do these smaller live streams where we pull up channels, talk content, talk growth strategies. A lot of fun. Let's see. What was this one? PewDiePie effect. Yeah, I have that one. I did that one on my channel. You can actually find that one. I did the effect with the swirl transition, and I was able to slow it way down and do the effect. So that's on. If you looked up PewDiePie effect on my channel, you'll find that done in Filmora. Let's see. Hey, Daniel, it's been a while. Love the channel, all you do. Thank you very much. I'm here. It's maybe have been a while for you, but I've still been around. I will tell you that a lot of the stuff I've been doing, because I'm working with a lot of different channels now, that what happens is sometimes I'll put up content on the StreamYard channel or on the TubeSpanner channel, and I try to post those in my community tab, but a lot of people don't see that content. They're like, hey, you haven't done any videos recently. I'm like, really? I did 3 this week, but they just weren't on my channel. They're on other channons. Chip Gatler, good to see you, pal. Welcome to the Battalion memberships. The same thing. Make sure you go to the memberships tab. Make sure you join our members only Facebook group. Lots of great stuff happening in there. Great group. And I have to say special congrats to one of our OG members, Hank Hamilton from Hamiltonville Farm, who just got his silver play button. Yeah, just crushing it. We've got a couple of members who are working up to that too. That I think Dogfather Barbecue is going to be the next one to have a silver play button. It's just been so fun to watch the growth in that group. And folks like Danielle from TubeSpanner. TubeSpanner's in there. We've got Nick Nimmons in there, D Nimmons in there, Roberto Blake's in there, Brian G. Johnson's in there, Cody Warner. We get a lot of creators in there that you can ask questions, and they're there to help. So it's a great group to be in. I'm in most of the YouTube strategy groups, and Daniel's Battalion group is right at the top of the best groups. Thank you so much, Danielle. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We do things a little different in there. We keep the spam low, and we're very supportive of each other. The whole idea of that group is to give as much as you get. So we try to keep that vibe where we get it's cool to hang out in, and I'm in there almost every day. So we talk all the time in there, which is just a great place to be. Let me look at some questions here from the chat. When do you think I should use professional videos? By the way, love your vid. Should I use professional videos? Let me make sure I understand your question correctly, Brettify. Do you mean like B-roll? I use stuff like that all the time. I go to, let me see if I can open up a tab here. I use, I'm going to grab a window. I use things like, let me see if I can pull it up and show you. It'd be easier if I can show you. Story blocks. Let's see if I can share the screen over here. I think maybe I can. Let me share the screen. Stop screen. Yeah, that's it right here. Okay, so I use a thing called Story Blocks that has, as you can see, the upper tabs. Let me make it a little bigger. It has video, audio, images, and sound effects. So a lot of times I'll get B-roll, if that's what you're asking, professional stuff. I'll get B-roll right from Story Blocks where I'll sign in and they have all this different video content that's searchable. Like if I'm doing something like, oh, I want to show an effect and I want to find like something like city, right? I need something that has to do with city or people in the city or something like that. I can type that into the search bar. you have to excuse me, I have 9 million windows open, and it'll have all these different videos, this B-roll stuff that I can use. And I can't remember what they run a year. I want to say it was like $249 for an entire year. But I love it. They have really great B-roll that I can get stuff. You can, people, things. If I needed to do something showing like a skateboarder or something like that, I can find, whoops, sorry, I can't spell today. Skateboarding. I'll look at and I'll find like skateboarding footage, and you can see, you can download this stuff in up to 4K and a lot of it. So it's really high quality footage. So like if I'm making a video about something and I don't have any skateboarding footage and I need some skateboarders in it because I'm doing something with a skateboarder, or I'm trying to show something, a lot of times that's when I'll pay for some of those B-roll stuff, because I use all kinds of things, sound effects, video effects. So that helps me build out. Some things I film, but some things I don't have time to film. And I'm not going to go down to the skate park and try to spend hours filming a skateboarder when I just need a 3-second clip of someone coming through with a skateboarder. I'll use B-roll for that. So that's something that's when I use it, I always just think about trying to use other types of footage that helps tell the story. If I think a piece of B-roll will help tell my story, I use B-roll. Or when I'm making an effect, you've seen a lot of my videos in Filmora where crazy ones, where I showed how to do They Live. Like the guy puts on the sunglasses, and then as he puts them on, he can see all the signs in the city change to different words, subliminal messaging. All that footage was B-roll stuff that I got I just looked up, I need someone lifting and, putting on sunglasses, and I just found those clips from paid footage. I heard, this is from Furkan, I heard that YouTube algorithms supporting quantity over quality. Is that right? No, this is not true. The thing I try to, when it comes to making video content, really think about the viewer. What YouTube's putting all of its effort into is understanding the viewer. So they really they pay attention to how quickly people click your video. So the packaging, the thumbnail, the title. So not just the video structure, but how you package it, how you make the title, how you make the thumbnail. Is it clickable? Do people immediately connect with it and go, yep, I want to watch that? Then once they click and watch, they start watching. How much of that are they watching? How long do they watch? Have you set your video up in a way that the video delivers on the promise of the thumbnail and title, the packaging? And if you did, and it makes sense to the viewer that you're trying to reach, and they go, this is exactly what I wanted to watch, I love this, then YouTube recommends that content more often. So is it quantity? No, you could make 1 million videos that don't connect with anybody and you won't get anywhere. Quality is the most important thing, and not in terms of the highest quality. Quality is a tough one to measure. Quality, what do you think quality is? To me, quality is something that satisfies. If I watch a video, it doesn't have to be perfectly filmed. I do like the audio to be good, because if audio is bad, I'm out in a second. It just hurts my ears. But if the audio is decent, it looks pretty good. The main thing I'm trying to get from any video is, does it satisfy me? Does it do the thing I need it to do? If I'm trying to change the alternator on a 72 Dodge Dart, and I find a video on YouTube that says this is how to change the alternator on a 72 Dodge Dart, and it does it really quickly, effectively, I can understand it, I can follow along, it makes a lot of sense, it's not confusing, then that's a good video. That satisfies me, and it's done the thing that you want your video to do. Connect with the person who was trying to find something or learn something, and you gave them that thing. So that's the most important thing. There are some channels on YouTube that they only upload like once a month because they do very high technical content. Robert is one. Lucas the Spider is another, where they do very short animated video edits where it's this little spider. It's kind of cute. They're all under a minute. They take a long time to make, so they don't publish as much. So it is about quality, but quality first. But you also don't want to wait too long in between uploads. Like on YouTube, I really feel like if you're going to try to grow a YouTube channel, you don't want to let much more than a week go between publishing something, right? Whether it's a short or a longer form video. Try to make sure that you keep your pacing. Every 7 or 8 days is probably a good place to start if you can. Let me see. Brettify, what do you advise people for staring at YouTube? I think you mean starting. Starting YouTube is get out there and start making content. That's the very reason I do these like Filmora tutorials. I really try to teach people, get in there, start filming, start editing, start learning the software, start learning your camera, start learning how to put footage together. And start with the basics. And once you start learning that, the most important thing about YouTube and creating content, video content for YouTube, is sort of learning how to get good at it. It's going to take you a while for you to get better at something, right? You don't just learn right off the bat. So you're going to have to think about, you need to get better. I'm still learning every single day. So the better I get, the better my content looks, the better it does connecting with the people who are interested in the things I talk about. And then the higher probability that YouTube's going to recommend more of my content to those viewers, because I've learned how to connect. I've learned how to structure videos that make sense. They sound a little better. They look a little better. They get to the point. Those kind of things are really important. So really think about that. Trigger the algorithm. There's a throwback. That was a great one I did. So every now and then we make music on the channel. That was one I did with Brian. That was on his channel, actually. Hello from Russia, me, Kazakhstan. Love your videos. Try to repeat these techniques in editing my own way. Keep being so cool. Hey, man, that's great. I always say, like when I give you these techniques, don't try to just do exactly what I did. I really try to show you a technique so that you can go, oh, I know what I can use that technique for, and then you learn how to apply it to something else. Like one of the questions I get a lot is people are asking me how to, I try to show people how to do things on like Filmora that they didn't think they could do for very specific reasons. Let me add this up in the stream. Let me go back over to Filmora. Let me get out of this. Let me get up here. Like things like, sometimes people like ask me how I do things, and it's real simple answers to a lot of it. Like if I want to, let's say I had I have two pieces of footage here. I got a split. Let me make this big screen. Let me get rid of this. I don't need that in there. Here's one piece of footage, right? And then over here, I've got a split. It's continuous. A lot of times people don't understand how to use some of the features and things like Filmora. Very simple things like the crop and zoom. See, I've got a big wide screen right here. This was a 21:9 video I did, but it's sitting still. This whole first piece of footage, I'm not moving. The camera's just focused in place on a tripod and I'm talking into it. But there are different features you can do. Like if you want to do a crop and zoom, let me show you this really simple one. Really quickly. Hey, cleaning how to, welcome to the channel memberships group. Make sure you go to the memberships tab and click down to see what's available to you, and definitely join the Facebook members only group. You're going to love it in there. All right. Drop your URL in. And by the end of the day, I'll go through all the people who have tried to join up and I'll make sure I get you in. But quickly, like here's a piece of footage, right? If I wanted to do a crop and zoom, sometimes people go up to the effects and they start looking for the zoom tool up here. And it's like, they do have one under, where do they have it in it? It might be under the transitions. They might have it. I can't remember where they put it. I know there's a crop and a zoom up here somewhere that exists in one of these. Maybe it's the effects, but I never use that tool. I'll find it one of these days. There it is, the crop tool. I never use that one up here. What I use is I right click on the footage that's in my timeline. Let me see if I can get this to go. And then from the drop down menu, I go to the crop and zoom tool, which is right up here. And it opens up this window. And if I want to do a crop and zoom, if I want to zoom in, I'll click on the pan and zoom. So you see there's a second window. It says end up in the left-hand corner and the bigger window says start. This is just a preset. This tells me the aspect ratio of it down here. I'll use the original aspect ratio. So if I'm zooming in, I'll go, I don't want to zoom in that close. I want to zoom in. I want the final frame to be maybe here, right? So, okay, there it is. There's the start and there's the end, and I hit okay. Now what that does is it puts a slow zoom in over the entire length of this piece of footage, right? So it goes slowly in. There's Daniel screaming. Let me just mute this. I don't need any, I don't want to hear myself screaming. So let me get the master mix and I'll kill it from there. Okay. So what I'll do is that'll put the zoom over that entire section. So it's now slowly zooming in. So people will say to me, well, how do I make it zoom faster? Simple. Figure out where you want it to be zoomed into and you go, okay, I don't want it to wait all the way to the end to get to that zoomed in point. I wanted it to be zoomed in right about here. Split your footage. Just put a split in it. So now what it'll do is it'll zoom in that right up to that split. Okay, so that just sped up the zoom. Now the problem is it applies that same crop and zoom to the second half. So you'd have to go back up here, go back to the crop and zoom, and then decide what you want to do. If you wanted it to stay zoomed in, click on the end screen right here. Use these two arrows down in the lower right to reverse them. So the end now becomes the start. And then switch over to crop. So it's just going to stay here and then hit OK. And what that does is you've done a faster zoom in. It slowly zooms in over that piece of footage. And then when it gets there, bang, stays there. See? Nice and simple. So understanding how to use the features in the tool you're using can make all the world of difference to how your production works, because people get so confused, like, I hate the crop and zoom, I can't get it to go faster or slower. Yeah, you can. You just have to learn how to split the footage and use it. Each piece of, video editing software has its own language, so learning that language is super important, because you'll understand how to use the features. And I try to cover a lot of this on my channel. And I have videos on all this stuff on how to do it. I try to cover these basics so that anyone looking for it can usually find it pretty easy by using my search bar. If you just type in crop and zoom, you'll find a video on it. Metal Gamer 96, welcome to the channel memberships. Make sure you go to the memberships tab of my YouTube channel and go scroll down. You'll see all the options available, and the channel memberships group is there. Be sure to join the Facebook members only group. It's fantastic. Let me see what we got going on. Hey, Daniel, is there some way to use motion tracking in Filmora X to zoom onto an object and track around it? To zoom onto an object and track around it. I don't know if I understand your question exactly. I'm going to say that's Azarlis. Oh, I'm pronouncing everything wrong. To zoom, motion track, there's a zoom and then track around it. I actually have a video coming out. There's a thing that people have asked me, the difference between motion tracking, which is you take a piece of footage and, like, say there's a car moving, and I've shown how to do this on my Filmora X tutorial that showed all the new features. If you have a car moving and you wanted to have a title or something else tracking along with that car, you have the main footage and another element that you're motion tracking, meaning whatever the motion in the first piece of footage is, it's now going to grab the other piece of footage and track it along with it, right? You can do it with words, you can do it with other pieces of video elements. But another thing that people often ask me is, how do you camera track? Which really isn't a video editing technique. You can do it, but people are like, well, how do I get it? How do I get the motion tracking? You're not trying to motion track. You're trying to take one piece of footage and say, like, you're moving around. You want your face always to be in the middle, kind of like a first-person shooter game, and have the whole scene move around you. But it's like the camera only tracks your face. That's more of a camera tracking technique that I did figure out a hack for that. And I've got a video coming out. This should be out this week. That's going to show you how to do that. So stick around if that's the kind of question you're asking on how to track inside of the frame, like the actual footage itself, have one piece get tracked. I will cover that. I hope that answered the question. It may not have. Let me see. Hi, what's the real editing software you're using? Right now I'm using Filmora 10. I usually either whenever you watch one of my tutorials, whatever that tutorial is about, that's the video editing software I used to make that entire tutorial. I don't just feature that software. I actually use, if I'm talking about Filmora 10, then the video edit how I made that tutorial, I use Filmora 10. If I'm talking about Filmora Pro, then I'll actually use Filmora Pro to do that entire edit. Just because I think it's the most authentic way to help people learn. Like, I want to use the tool. I want you to use the tool. Let's learn together. So whatever I'm talking about Movavi, then I've edited that video with Movavi. Just the way I tend to how I tend to do things. Let's see. Will Filmora edit 360 videos? Yes, it will. And my friend who has a channel called The Man with the Hat. You have to have one other plugin. There's a very specific way to do it. Let me find it. The Man with the Hat 360. Yeah, if you type into YouTube search, edit 360 videos in Filmora, you will find, let me see if I can find his channel. He's right here. This is his video right here. He figured out how to do it exactly, and I told him, hey, make this video. And he walks through exactly, The Man with the Hat, he walks through exactly how to edit 360 video in Filmora. There's a trick to it to make sure that you get the full 360 pan. He figured it out. That's the one you want to go watch. It's not doable natively. There's one other piece of free software that you have to download to allow that to render properly, okay? Let me see. Someone insulting me? What do we got? Hello, friends. I don't understand very well the things that Daniel Batal says and everything he explains. And you are also strange. It's really difficult, but Daniel is the best to teach me this. That's okay. That was like a insult wrapped in a compliment. Thank you. Okay, let's moving on. I think that was a compliment, kind of. how to make animated content for educational videos, like explaining chapters and making student visuals the best. Animated content, Filmora, if you're talking about Filmora, is that what it is? Most of these questions, I assume people are asking about Filmora. There's tons of great animation software out there. There's ones that do whiteboard animation. There's ones that do Toon Boom Harmony, TOONBOOM Harmony. Is a animation software. It's designed to make like 2D animation. So that kind of stuff, you're better off doing those kind of animations in a software that's designed to do it. Movavi isn't designed to do animation. Filmora isn't. DaVinci really isn't. Even Adobe isn't. You know, these things really aren't. They're not animation softwares, though you can do animation. After Effects, Adobe After Effects gets a little better at some of the VFX kind of stuff. But to do real animation, if you're going to do 2D, I'd go Toon Boom Harmony. If you were going to do 3D animation, which is really tricky, I would probably lean towards Blender, which is an open source free video editing software. Huge learning curve. I spent time with it. Very hard to learn to use that. It's just really it's a very steep learning curve. Hi, Dale, you're the best. Hey, thanks, Life in America. I appreciate that. How to cut only the face in Filmora. Try to remove the face. It's tricky. I did a video the other day that showed how to motion track a blur that you could put over your face. But if you wanted to just remove the face, that's trickier because currently I don't think you can motion track a mask, which is really what you're asking. Like, how do you mask out the face and then motion track the mask? There isn't a good way that I found to do that yet. There's a couple of hacks, but they don't work great. And then a lot of times people are trying to put another face in place of that. This is the software for that. You want to do something like Reface is one that you can actually insert your face over another one. But you can motion track, like I've done it with on my community tab about 5 months ago. I took like a meme face and I motion tracked that over my own face by just adding it as an overlay. And then wherever I went, I had this big smiley meme face. So you can do that. But if you're trying to reface, if you're trying to change your face, this isn't the software for you. Reface, I think, is REFACE is one that does that. You made familiar popular by your magical tricks. Yeah, it's so funny. I call them magic tricks. The hooks at the beginning. What magic trick am I gonna do this week? Yeah, you know, I won't argue. I appreciate that. I think that a lot of people tell me, you know, you made me want to use Filmora because I didn't think it could do as much as it did until I saw you do stuff with it. But I feel the same way about it's not just Filmora. It's I try to teach creators how to be better editors, right? Learn more technique, learn more. Things that you can do so that you're not relying on the video editing software to do all the work, right? Learn to be a better filmer, a better editor, learn to understand, think outside the box. And that's one of the best ways to discover how to become a better editor. So if you change software, those skills come with you. You know, that really, really comes with you. It's super important. Please make a video on how to make animation and out animation of the text with software. How to make in and out animation of text. Oh, you mean have it come in and out? That's all done. I've covered that a million times. In and out animation is on text on Filmora. I've covered that a ton. And anybody who's been around knows that. All of the text in Filmora has the animations built in. So if you did like let me go with the default text. Let me find a default title, bring that down here, put it into a track above my main. Here's your text. If you click on that text in your timeline in the upper left, you'll see, let me go full screen. You'll see, let me get this out of here, that there is animation. See right up on the left, animation. You click on that, there's a bunch of preset animations. And you can go to the advanced tab, and I've covered this a lot, and there's even more animations in here that you can add. So you can add whatever animation. Let's say you wanted this to come in from the right and then go back away. There's one that they call, I think it's called To the Right. They have two different versions of it. One's fast, one's slow. So let's use the fast one. There's your To the Right. Pops in, pops out, hit OK. And what that will do is when this, when I start playing this, it'll shoot that text in and it'll stay there. And it's dependent on length. The longer it is, the slower the effect is. There's some new ways to change that. So it comes in. Maybe you don't want it to come in there. Maybe you wanted to wait a bit and then come in. So move that over. And then it's just, you just have this video playing. Boom, the text comes in, stays there. And then the length of it, when it gets near the end, it'll pop it back out. So there's your in out. That's a very simple one. You can also do, let me go back to advanced. Let me kill all animation. I'm going to scroll up, and here's the X. Let's remove the animation completely. So now there should be none if Filmora did what I want. Yeah, so now it just comes on, right? Boom, it's on. One of the things you can do is you can add transitions to your animation. Not everyone, but a lot of them you can. Real simple one. Some of them affect the footage underneath, so you have to be careful. But dissolve is my favorite transition of all. You can go up and put a dissolve transition at the beginning, left click hold, and you can change the length of that dissolve. Put dissolve at the end, make it as long or as short as you want. Let's go right about there. And what that'll do is when this text comes up, it'll dissolve in. And then when that text is ready to leave, it'll dissolve back out. So that's a simple in and out right there, right? We're just learning how to use different things together. The dissolve transition, let me show you some other things with the dissolve transition that people don't know. I love using dissolve transitions for all kinds of things. Let's say, let me go over to this other footage over here. Here I am talking, right? This is the same footage. It just has a split in it. There's this and this. You can split anywhere in your footage. Let's put a split, right? I didn't change anything. Putting in a split just redefines these sections. If I play, you would never see that split. It would play right through it because I just said that. I happened to split right when there actually was a, when there was an edit. Let me find a spot where there's no edit. No edit there, no edit. Okay, let me split it here. So there won't be any visible edit here. It'll just keep playing smoothly. Did you see that in the upper right? Even though I put a split on a continuous piece of footage, so it plays right through the split. Now, what you can do, though, you can do things like, someone asked me this recently. I was making my video change colors, like it went from one LUT to another LUT to another LUT, and someone said to me, how did you do that? How did you keyframe those LUTs? I didn't keyframe anything. All I did was I said, okay, here's my footage. Here's my one these are all just basic color corrected. Right? So all I did was when I got to this next section, I split it. And in the upper left under color, I added a LUT. I went, let me do this. I'll add a LUT and change the color of this one. Let's pick a built-in LUT that they might have. How about, like, I don't know, Star Wars. All right, so this is a Star Wars LUT, right? It has more of a vintage look. So you can see the color change, but it's harsh, right? But because this is one continuous piece of footage, I grabbed the dissolve transition, put that between the two, and it's dissolving between two pieces of footage that are continuous. This is a difficult concept to understand, but simple in practice. If I dissolve between two different pieces of footage, you'd see the swap over. But because it's dissolving between a continuous piece of footage that just has a split, what it will now do is it'll dissolve from this piece of footage that has no LUT to the one that does have a LUT, but it's the same footage. So watch what happens. Watch in the upper right. It'll just slowly swap over to the LUT. Well, that was too long, sorry. I gotta render it. That's the problem, is that the rendering is throwing it off. Try to give me a second, and get past this. My render isn't as quick as it usually is. I've got too many things running right now. Okay, that's rendered. Now let's go back here, and it should go right between the two. Boom, it just switches. I'd still get a little lag to it. But I adjusted this, and I was able to get mine over. Let me try it this way. I don't know why this one's giving me a little issue today. Let me pull it this way. It should be right. Let me try it up on top. There we go. On top, it works better. So I moved it into a track above it, and that seemed to be less problematic. So I'll put the dissolve on top. So what I did is I brought that up. Now, all it is, it's the same footage. Like let me put it this way. If I put this here, let me remove this dissolve. Here's a piece of footage on top that's color corrected. If I turn that off by the eyeball, you'll now see it'll show through the one below, but it's the same footage. So let me put the dissolve here, and now it'll dissolve into that, and it'll just look like it's changing colors. There we go. Now it worked. See, sometimes every one of these updates, they change a little bit, and I have to relearn a little bit about Filmora. So now it'll slowly swap into that color corrected piece. It's not rendered. That's why it's a little choppy. Let me render it. And now you'll see it looks like it just changed from one color type to another. And all I did there was just dissolve the exact same piece of footage that was colored one way into another piece of footage that's colored another. I've done this on my channel. There was one, I've done it with black and white. I take the same footage and I put it in black and white and dissolve into the exact same footage that is black and white. And it looks like it went from color to black and white, or the opposite. It'll go from black and white and all of a sudden everything gets colored. That's a lot of fun. I like doing things like that a lot. Let me see. Let me scroll a little bit here. I'm trying to find some questions. one of the questions, how do you layer effects and keep the application running smooth? Do you ever render out an effect and reinsert it into the edit so it lightens the load? Yes. Yes. If I get a very busy project, this is a word, this is so funny. There's a word that people now use that I brought into the conversation unintentionally. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about bouncing footage. It was something I started saying because I come from a music background. In audio editing, back in the day, we used to record, we didn't have digital stuff like we do now. We had these big tape machines, right, that had this big spinning reels that you've seen, and we record music. That's how we made albums, on these machines with these big tape reels. Now, if they'd only had so many tracks, a real professional recording studio was 24 to 48 different tracks, but smaller ones, you might only have 8 tracks, right? Like the Beatles did this too. They recorded like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band only on 8 tracks. But if you use up all the tracks, you've run out of tracks. You can't add any more. So what people used to do back in the day, this was an old studio trick, was let's say you've used up 7 tracks and you only have 1 track left. You could go, I know, I'll take whatever's on track 1, 2, and 3, and I'll combine them, bounce them over to 1 track. So now I've taken 3 tracks, combined them into 1, and I've opened up more tracks. We used to call that a bounce. We bounce our tracks. So I've always been calling it that. So when I'll have a project that has a lot of layers on it and there's a lot of things happening, right? What I'll do is I'll take this, and if I think that I've got everything where I want it, I'll export this entire thing so it all comes back as 1 track. Like if I know I've got everything where I want it, the titles, everything, but I want to do more with this footage, I'll export this. The only thing I do is I make sure I export it at a really high frame rate and resolution. Make sure the bit rate is high. Because if you put it low, it's gonna keep degrading the quality of it. So I always make sure I'm exporting it like 100,000 kbps, 80,000 or better. I always make sure the audio is cranked all the way up as high as it'll go, 60 frames per second. I tend to bounce at UHD instead of 1080, and I'll bounce that footage out. So then it all comes back as 1 track, right? It has the titles applied, it has the effects applied. And what a lot of times that'll do is if I have a very thick project, I'll go, I'm not going to, these effects are exactly where I want them. I'm not going to change it, but I want to add a few more things on top or different layers. I'll bounce that out and I'll start I'll still save that project. I'll start a new project with that bounced footage and it's all put together into 1 track. And then I'll work from there. And what that bounce does is it lightens the load on my software and on my computer, where I'm not trying to have it color correct 9 million things at once and change everything every time I hit the play button, and it's working its butt off to keep up because I've asked it to do so much. Now I'm fortunate, I have really nice computers that have, like the state of the art, AMD, the newest 6800 XT, graphics cards that you can't even buy. I've been lucky, I'm blessed because of the thing that I've chosen to do. But not everybody has that. Their computers don't run as smooth. You have older computers and you're trying to do a lot. Bouncing footage, really, really simple way to make things work a little smoother for you. Let me see. I'm going to pull some questions from the chat. So one of the questions here is, how do I make a fade dreamy effect between two videos? A dreamy, I did that. I did it on my channel. I did it as I think I put like a warble on it, and I showed how to do that. It was I think it called it a flashback. Let me see if I can find it. If you ever want to try to find something, go to my channel. And the search bar up here on the right usually works. Let me see if it's a flashback. I think I called it a flashback effect. Yeah, I did it here where I was, let me make sure this sound is not on, where I did this. I showed exactly how to do this, where I was on screen, I was talking, and then I pretended I had like a flashback, and I did it like a dream sequence, like, oh, let me remember, what was that thing? And I showed exactly how to do a warbly, like flashback to me earlier. So I showed exactly how to do that. It's called the flashback effect in Filmora. So look that on my channel and I'll show you exactly how to create that sort of a dreamy transition of like, am I dreaming? I'm thinking. And I showed exactly how to do it. So that's there for you if you need it. Let me see. Yeah, that was the question. I think I answered that all right. Let me see. Daniel, if you've learned Blender, why do you not make tutorials on it? A couple of reasons. The main reason being there's not enough, there's other people who do it much better than I have. And the other reason is everybody in here who's using Filmora or using Movavi and like that, because they're similar in features. They have different features each, but they're similar in terms of the intermediate level. I like to stick with stuff that people are using in my community. If I introduce 900 different pieces of software, one of the issues is it just gets confusing. People click and go, I'm not using Blender, I'm not going to watch this video. So it becomes disinteresting and it hurts my channel growth. So I'm always trying to stick true to the conversation that I meant, which was really trying to get more out of simple software. Blender's a very advanced software, and there are great channels that already do tutorials on it. I let them do that heavy lifting. I'm not looking to cover every piece of software ever made. I like using the simple stuff that a lot of you guys are out there using on smaller computers. Blender is one that you'd have to have a supercomputer to run, because the more you start adding layers, it like every other video editing software, when you ask software to do a lot, you need a lot of system resources to run it. I can run it, but a lot of people don't have the computers to run software like that effectively. So I stick to the basic stuff. What was this? I look so much farther away. Small spaces can work. Yeah, Meg's my girlfriend. She's been really helping out on the channel lately because I've just been overwhelmed. So yeah, she was here to help me actually put this all together, the set and everything. We're in a small space. I've always been a small space kind of guy. Spartan existence. Just whatever it takes. Can you please tell me the keyframing in detail? Keyframing is, there's different types of keyframing. There's an audio keyframing and there's a video keyframing. I covered this if you go to my channel, my friend, I can cover it, but I'd like to cover things that I haven't covered on my channel. It just makes it easier for me. On my channel, if you go to if you just put in Filmora X into YouTube, you'll probably find my video. It's one of the highest ranked ones. So right here, if you go to this video, this is the video where I covered all that stuff. There's actually chapters. If you go to the description, I actually talked about each thing: custom keyboard shortcuts, audio ducking, motion tracking. Keyframing is 43 seconds in right here. You'll see it. That you can click on that. It'll take you right to that part of the video where I covered how to use the keyframing effect. So any of that new stuff that's in Filmora X, definitely just look up Filmora X on my channel. I did one video that really covered all of the new features, most of them. Filmora does this tricky thing where they do updates. Let me talk to you all for a second if you're Filmora users out in the audience. Filmora, one of the things you have to be cautious of, Filmora listens to the audience. And if there's a glitch or if there's something new they're adding, they don't always have an entirely new update that they tell you about. They'll start rolling out a few new features and they'll sneak them in. And even if you go to, a lot of you guys out there will go like, oh, I want to upgrade. I think I have the newest version of Filmora. I think I'm running that. And what people will do is they'll go up to the help tab and they'll scroll down to check for updates. And it'll say, oh, your current version is the latest version, which in fact, I am running the latest publicly announced version. But along the way, Filmora will make an update with a glitch fix or something that was problematic, or they add a tiny little feature in, and they don't put they don't put it into the software saying there is a new update. They put it out just on the website, and they let certain people who know to go there to download it, try it out, and they listen to the community. Is it working okay? Is anyone out there saying there's some glitches in it and we need to take a look at it? They make sure that they got it right, and once it seems to be problem-free, then they announce that the new update is out. So if there's features in there that you don't have, I always do this. I back up all my project files so they can't get overwritten. Even though if you download a new version of Filmora, it's not supposed to overwrite your project files, but I work too hard on my projects to have them accidentally erased on a new download. But if you go right to Filmora.wondershare.com and just download the latest version, which is that part where it says, like, what do they say does it say free trial? Let me just pull this up really quickly here so I can show you. Filmora, make sure you go to the actual website. A lot of times people forget, that they try to download it from some funky place, and Filmora.com is where you really want to go to. Right here where it says try it free, that's the latest download. Right here, want to share Filmora, try it free. So if you already have a license, just click on this, back up your project files, and it will download, see, it's downloading the latest version. And when I open that up, I'm not going to install it right now because I'll do it later. It'll install the latest version with any new little glitch fixes or maybe an extra hidden feature that they've added in along the way that they're testing out. So I do that usually once a week. I'll just go and I'll download a new copy and make sure I have the most recent, because the most recent ones tend to run the smoothest. They've done the glitch fixes. If there's something that was giving them trouble, they'll go in, they'll fix it, and they'll release it. And once they're sure the glitch fix is right, they'll tell people, and then you'll see it in the software. But the latest version is always accessible by going right to the website and downloading it. There's features in here that I discovered that they don't always show, they don't always talk about. This is one that people ask me about. I have people ask me, like, how do I make my skin look smoother, right? And that's something up until recently Filmora didn't really have. But I just noticed recently that when I was, let me see if I can pull this up. When I was playing around with my footage, they have this feature. Let me see if I can block out one section. I'll cut out a section here. If I click on this section that I just sliced, I think it's under effects and it might be skin. Yeah, beauty. This one, beauty skin, that I never really pay attention to because I don't really care if I know I'm not the prettiest guy in the world. I don't need to beautify. But if you bring that down and put it on your footage, what it does is, let me click on that footage here. And then like everything else in the videos tab, anything you've added now becomes available under the video effects tab here. Let me go full screen so you can see it. So you can pick a color tone, like pick your skin color tone, grab the little eyedropper, go over and pick whatever you think the mid-tone of your skin is. I guess that's it, right? And then what it does is it will take this and you can change the radius. You can make it a little more, a little less, the tolerance. And it basically takes that tone in your footage. Can I go full screen? Let me see if I can. And what it'll do is it smooths out your skin. So if you look, and it's just a very subtle thing. Let me see if I can go full screen here. So what it does is it goes from, not the prettiest guy in the world to right here. Can you see that subtle change? If you look at like where is it obvious? Like just like kind of under my eyes, right? I'm an older cat with bags under my eyes and my cheeks, I get wrinkles. It can dial out. See, I got wrinkles right here. You hit that skin thing and all of a sudden, oh wait, Daniel's 5 years younger. What happened? It's the fountain of youth. I've discovered Filmora has given me youth and beauty. So there's little simple things like that sometimes I'll discover. I don't use those, but people will ask me and I have to go in and dig and go, oh, that feature does exist. It's the beauty skin feature. Make yourself look a little prettier on screen. And those are things that didn't always exist in Filmora. They snuck it in. They snuck it in along the way. And it's like, no kidding. I can't believe that you can do that now. You can go overboard with that too, crank it way up. And it doesn't really make you look younger and younger. It just starts making you look a little more washed out. It's like that, the old school, what they do with like older actresses, they fuzzy the lens a little bit. And it's like, it's just a little fuzzier. But yeah, beauty settings. Who'd have thunk it? So let's see. Let's look, another question in here. Which condenser budget mic would you prefer for beginners? Is Boya BY-M1 good? Yeah, very good. It's not that's a lavalier mic. I have one of those I keep in my kit. It's about $20 US. I'm going to do a video on that and show how to not only use it. It's real easy. It plugs into everything. And you can EQ it and get it to sound really good. I recommend that. Super cheap. That's a lavalier mic. If you're into that one that pins onto your chest, that's what we like, a lapel mic, lavalier mic. Boya BY-M1 is excellent. For budget condenser mics, depends what you want. Now, I use a lot of gear, mic preamps. Some mics are going to need a preamp, which is to power it. Like this mic right here, the Shure SM7B. Not only needs an inline mic it requires a lot, and it needs an audio converter to get it into your, you can't just plug it right into a computer. It's an XLR microphone cable. It's not a USB mic. So, but there's a bunch of companies out there that make different condenser mics. I like the, for under $100, I like the Audio-Technica AT2020. That does require a mic but that's my favorite condenser mic. I use that for years. Most of my videos, until recently, I tend to use this one now, and I also have a super expensive Sennheiser shotgun mic up here that's stupid expensive. It's about $1,000. This mic here runs about $300 or $400. I can't remember right. Maybe $400 with all the pieces and parts. So under $100. I like the Audio-Technica mics. I think they make nice mics. Super cheap, Boya BY-M1 if you want a lapel mic. The good thing about that lapel mic, the lavalier, is it's right here. So you don't have to worry about if you need to do anything where you'll be moving away from the camera or away from the mic. That lavalier mic is really good for that because your audio is nice and strong because it's clipped to your shirt or your jacket or whatever. Sounds really good. What's this question? Is Filmora introducing time remapping anytime soon? Wouldn't expect it. No. I try to tell people this. Here's the biggest problem that I think people don't understand. Is that what YouTube was, what Filmora X, which is now X, was designed to do was to be a very simple video editing software. And what people think is, why can't you make it be like Premiere Pro? It wasn't designed to be like Premiere Pro. There's a better chance of you seeing those kind of features in Filmora Pro, which was designed to be a higher functioning software, than you'll see it in Filmora X or the Filmora 10 line. They did add motion tracking and keyframing because enough people asked, and it's a fairly simple process. Simple, I say, but it's not. But what happens is every time they add a feature, the price goes up, and it needs more system resources. You need a better computer to run it. I don't know if you've noticed. That's so funny right there. The epic desk. That beauty effect is called the Sybil Shepherd effect. Thanks for the super chat. You're right, Sybil Shepherd. That's one that used to always make her kind of cloudy and hazy. 100%. Yeah. So here's the thing. If you look right now, Filmora 10 requires a lot stronger computer than like Filmora 8 used to, because Filmora 8 didn't have all these features that the newer one does. So now you have to have a stronger computer. And if you've noticed, as they start building out the features and it takes more work and effort, Filmora starts, I say, charging more. The price is about the same, but they've changed the licensing structure. Right now, because that's what they have to do. They have to start charging more for all these new things that they're now supporting and creating. And right now, it used to be when I bought Filmora, I don't know if it's grandfathered anymore, but any new version of Filmora that came along down the line, I got to update for free. If you go to the Filmora website now, the current license only applies to the version they're on. So if you have Filmora 10, you get all the Filmora 10 updates. But if they ever get to the Filmora 11, now they've changed it where you now have to pay for another license for Filmora 11. That's something that, and I was warning people all day long, if you keep asking this thing to do more and more and more and more and more, you're going to need a stronger computer and the prices and to run it. So you think it's like, oh, it should just run, right? No, you're asking, it's like taking a car and you're saying, what are you putting in the car? Groceries. And then next week you're like, what are you putting in the car? Me, I'm going to put, 800 pounds of concrete. Well, you're going to need a stronger transmission. You're going to need a stronger suspension. And that's going to cost more money, and it's going to mean that you need a better car to run it, right? So that's exactly what Filmora is wrestling with. They always tried to keep it simple, but there's some people out there who just really they don't have a computer that can run Adobe. They don't want to pay the price for Adobe, so they just keep screaming, Filmora, do better. And it's like, you're just never going to see it do all those things. Time remapping, that's higher tier stuff that if you want that for your project, I'm a huge fan of get the right tool for the job, all right? So if you really do, if you want to have time remapping, get a DaVinci Resolve, get an Adobe Premiere Pro. It will do it. I just got a message from my girl saying that I missed a super chat from, let me see, from Architectural Sheet Metal. I'm sorry, $5 super chat. I missed that one, where he asked, let's see, DaVinci Resolve, is DaVinci Resolve hard to learn? I love the style of editing that InShot offers. Would you say Filmora is somewhere in between, easier for beginners? Yes, I would. Architectural Sheet Metal, 100%. I would tell you that the way that Filmora was designed was it was made to have ease of use. It's probably stronger than InShot. It's got a few more features. The color correction is better. One of the things I love about Filmora, it's got a very easy learning curve. Let me pull this right up. Filmora is really simple, right? It basically has 3 windows. You've got your left window, which is all your what you've brought in, and then the controls. If you click onto a piece of footage down on the left, then the controls for that element all show up in the upper left. If you click on a title, then the title's controls will show up in the upper left. And then you just got a third window. So it's your timeline down below. And then in the upper right, it's just your preview window, right? So I love the simplicity of it. And then they have all these really simple things like transitions. They've got just, a whole bunch of preset transitions you can drop down in there. Effects. They've got a whole bunch of preset effects. I've got something in the search bar. Let me take that out. But they've got all these different preset effects that you can roll through to do things like changing the color, masking, things like that. And it's all drag and drop. You just click it, you bring it down, you throw it onto the piece of footage, and it's there. So that's what I've always liked about Filmora, that it was simple, easy to use. They have added keyframing, which is fantastic. They have added motion tracking, which I think was important. I'll be interested to see what they add next. But I don't think you're ever going to see Filmora be, it was never designed to compete with DaVinci. It was never designed to compete with Adobe. So if you want like high functioning software, I really think DaVinci is the better of the two because it's got the best color correction on the market. And it doesn't have, you pay a one-time license for DaVinci as opposed to Adobe that has recurring subscription fees. You can't buy Adobe Premiere Pro. You can't buy Adobe After Effects. You lease them and you basically rent them year after year after year. So if you were running at $250, I think it is, I think it's $249 for Adobe Premiere Pro a year. I mean, if you run that 4 years, it's going to cost you $1,000. So if you run that, whatever, if you use it for 40 years, it's going to cost you $10,000 to run Adobe Premiere Pro for 40 years. I'm just not a fan of that subscription thing. I'm more of a fan of, let me buy this. I don't necessarily think you have to give me all the updates, but if I want to use a software, let me buy it, right? And then maybe charge me, if you have a new update, give me a reduced license fee to get the new update if it's a whole new version. But yeah, it's a great question. I'm always a fan of find the software that's right for you, right? Find the one that makes sense for you, because every one of us has a different workflow, a different set of things that we need to have happen. And if the software doesn't do what you want it to do, then find a different software. Find a different software. Like some people get freaked out, like they really want to be able to detach the video portion from their editing software and move it to a different screen. You technically can do that with Filmora. It's a little tricky, and it's even gotten trickier with the new version. Let me see if I can show you this. I have 2 screens running right now. I don't have my other camera up, but I've got this screen you're looking at is on my right, and then there's another screen over on my left. And if I wanted to detach the display, like a lot of people go, how can I take the display and put that on a different screen so I just have the tools in one screen and the display in the other? The way you have to do it is shrink. Let me see if I can get rid of the other stuff. Shrink down Filmora. See, here's the Filmora screen. And then you have to bring it halfway over. So it's halfway. It's now halfway into my other screen. You can't see it, but this other left half is now my other screen. And that, but see right here below that is you can make the display section, the upper right, you can make it full screen. So if you click that, that becomes full screen for me. But in my other screen, I've got the other half of the video editing software sitting. I have to grab it in my other screen, drag it. See how you can see it? See that outline? That's it telling me I've got the main controller. I can bring that into my other window, and now it won't have the display in it. It has just a blank spot where the third window is. Can I do it here? I don't think I can. I think it won't let me do it that way. But that's how you can change. That's how you can change the detach the screen from Filmora 10. Is it something I do a lot? Not usually. Sometimes I do. Because the other trick is then, once you do that, you can reorder the sizes of things, right? If you notice, there are these, let me see if I can see how, like, here's the timeline and it's separated by that little black line. If you hover over that, can you see how my mouse, let me make this bigger. Can you see how my mouse becomes like an equal sign with 2 arrows? You can left click and hold, and you can change the size of these, right? So you can go, and you can do the same thing between the upper right sections. And you can basically reset up how Filmora looks by left clicking, holding, and changing the UI. Here's the UI, it's the user interface, the UI. So a lot of times I'll, if I wanted to, I could bring that halfway over. I could detach by just going full screen on that. And then I have the other section I can have in my other screen. You can see me moving it around. Move that to the other screen, make it full screen. And now I've got a diminished UI with my display on the other side. Is it super important? You know, some people are like, I have to have that. I need to be able to detach my display. There's some, like there's other softwares that do that really easily. Movavi does it. You can click and it'll detach it. So like this, that's where I usually try to talk to people about, like, well, what do you need your software to do? If you don't care if it detaches the display, then Filmora is great. If you really need that detached display, maybe try Movavi, or you could try DaVinci, or you could try Resolve if you want to spend a lot more money and you have a stronger computer. Question, filming, how far are you sitting right now from the back wall? Trying to set up a very small space, not sure to get that depth. So I'm sitting about 4.5 feet from the back wall. To get the look you're looking for, have you noticed, here's something I talked about recently when we were talking about filming cinematic. One of the things you want to understand is understanding your camera makes so much difference. A lot of people ask me this question like, how do I get the background to blur? Like it's some special effect you should do in your video editing software. It isn't. You can do it in some if you have a rotoscoping, but it looks super fake because you can tell where the person's traced out. What you really want is to learn how to use a camera. In this case, I'm using, what creates that depth of field is the aperture. So it's where the focal length is. So I'm using an f1.4 lens on my camera. And let me see if I can show you this. Let me see if this makes sense. Right now, if I get very close to the camera, see how I'm in focus? See, take a second and watch. This is a good trick to understanding what they call depth of field. I've got this set to f1.4, okay? And what I've done is that's why I'm this close. I've set this depth right about here when I'm sitting at my desk. I'm in focus, but my background, see, it's blurry. Try to read that Coke sign. See how it's blurry? But I've got this camera set to autofocus. Now watch what happens. Watch that Coke sign. Watch that Coke sign right there, okay? Or watch the license plate. Watch what happens when I move back, my body back, and the camera focus follows me. Watch what happens to the readability of that sign. Now can you read it? So that's one of the things you want to consider when you're setting up your shot, your depth of field. Make sure you're using the right lens so that if you want a little bit of that blur, we call that a bokeh blur in the background where things get a little fuzzy and softer, then you want to make sure that you're setting your depth and going, okay, I need to be about here. Right when I'm sitting about here, I start to get a little bit of blur back there, and that it isn't so sharp in focus, and it draws more attention to me. It makes me pop because I'm in focus and the background isn't. Those are the kind of things you want to learn when you're setting up your shot, setting up your set. Again, from where the camera is right, I'm literally touching the lens. The camera's about 18 to 20 inches from my face, and then the background is another maybe 4 feet, 4.5 feet. And the closer I get to the camera, if I move this whole thing forward a bit, that would even get blurrier back there. That's that depth of field. So understand your aperture settings. Something like when we talk about the F, that's the aperture, like how big the aperture setting is. And if it's aperture is just how much that lens opens up to let in light. And if it opens up a lot, it's actually a smaller number. So 1.4 means it's opening way up. But if you went smaller, if you went an F, if you're going more like, take it right up from there in steps, the larger the aperture, the smaller the opening, and the more the background will be in focus. The larger the aperture, the smaller the number. F1.4 is pretty small. And the more the background will be in blur because it's got a deeper depth of field. Did I talk a lot there? I hope that answered your question. Let me scroll down here. Let's see. I got a question. Hey, try not to spam the chat there, Saketh, my man. Asking once, I'll try to see it if I can. When do I think they're going to release Filmora 11? Not soon. I wouldn't expect it too soon because they just put out Filmora 10 not that long ago. We usually see a major update every year or two. So I would expect at least 1.5 years after they've put this one out. And it depends how much they can improve it. With Filmora 9, that was around for a good couple of years because they kept adding in features. But when it came time to add motion tracking and keyframing, they really needed to redesign the software, even though it looks very similar. They needed to rethink the way the software was structured. So they had to build a new version. It went from 9 to 10 because they couldn't just stuff in. It couldn't just go click an update. They redesigned like the basement, the foundation, the frame of it. So even though it looks just like Filmora 10 and Filmora 9 look very identical, but Filmora 10 has new features. They actually redesigned the software so it could encapsulate a new workspace, a new workflow, the way they've got the framework done. So when they get to the point where if there's some new major feature that they can't just integrate, then that's probably when you'll see a Filmora 11. Let's see. Thank you. Love the look of the depth. Yeah, it's true. It's, there's all kinds of things like learning how to light things. I've got more remote controls in here, learning how to get lights going. I have different settings for different looks. There's a huge aperture light right there that's, remote controlled. That does all my front lighting. I got side fill lights. I've got, remote control candles. These things kind of go off and on behind me. There's all different, it's all a lot of time spent, this backlighting down below me, trying to spend a lot of time slowly making things look a little bit better, balancing things. It takes a lot of work. Let's see. What did you say? Oh, success is the goal. Still have Filmora 8 on your system. Yeah, it's funny. You can go to filehippo.com and they have all the previous versions. You can go download Filmora 7. And if you have a license, you can actually run it and everything. It still applies to it. And you can get 7, 8. I had 8 on one of my older computers and I ran it and I went, oh my God, how did I ever edit with 8? Because it feels so archaic to me because I'm used to the new functionality and flow and the new features that 8 still had picture in picture, right? You didn't have unlimited tracks, and they're not unlimited. I think you can do up to 100 different tracks in Filmora 10, but I'll never use 100 tracks. But it had picture in picture track. Your main track and everything else was PIP, and it was a whole different workflow. And I was like, how did I ever use this? It's so much better now. So if you like Filmora 8 and it works for you, stick with it. But yeah, Filmora 10 requires more. If you run 8 now, it seems super fast because it doesn't have as many features and it doesn't require as many system resources. But it's like I had to rethink how to use 8. Do you use what do you use? Use 10, right? Yeah, but doesn't it feel totally different? There was a time when you used to install the update that Filmora would ask you, would you like to replace the version you have on it or just add this separately? And I used to have like 8 and then 9 at the same time. And I think I just stopped using them. I went, why am I keeping these? It was for reference for a while. When people would ask me, I could pull it up and show them the differences. But nowadays, I'm like, I just kind of go like, I forget about it. I just keep the most recent version up. Q color, Daniel, how can you make a color shift? That's a very specific question. It's not a color question. The color shift is a technique. It doesn't, Filmora 10, I call it X, doesn't do that well. But I've been looking for a hack. If I can figure out a hack, I'll let you know. All right? Internet tricks. How different is Filmora 10 from Filmora Pro? I talked about this earlier. Completely different. The only thing they have in common is the name. They both say Filmora. Completely different software. So you really want to just try them both and see which one's right for you. And when you find the one that works, stick with that one, right? I would definitely and I get these kind of questions a lot. Premiere Pro or Filmora X? Premiere Pro is more expensive, has more system requirements, and a ton more features. It also has a steeper learning curve. So if you're editing, figure out what you need to do in your edits, right? Don't rely on the software to do the work for you. Learn how to do the things you need to do. And if the software you're using does those things, stick with it. If you get to the point where you go, oh, every time I go to do something, this software doesn't have that feature, and I need these features for what I'm doing. Maybe I'm making science fiction videos or movies, and I really need all of these crazy After Effects. Go get Adobe After Effects, because that'll do it much better than something like Filmora X does, Filmora 10, where it's a more simple workflow. It's not designed to make Star Wars movies, though you can do some pretty crazy stuff with it. Just try different ones, find the one that's right for you, and stick with the thing that seems natural for you, right? It's almost like finding the right suit. One suit doesn't fit everybody. Put the one on that you think looks good on you, feels comfortable, and then if you like it and you're like, does what I need it to do, then stick with it. Don't think you have to have an Armani suit with, all the bells and whistles. If you go, no, I just need a simple suit jacket, I'm going to a wedding, you get what works and what fits and what looks right. You've been using Filmora for about 3 years. It's spectacular, but sometimes I feel like you could add a few more things to it. Yeah, you'd be surprised. In 3 years, well, if you used it for 3 years, you've noticed how much they've added to it. They have added quite a bit. It's changed a lot. It didn't have 3 years ago. It had, I don't even know if it had audio keyframing 3 years ago. It may have, because they introduced that in 9, but it didn't have video keyframing. It didn't have motion tracking. Didn't have, it's so much better now. The color correction's so much better now. The color grading, like Thomas is asking about, what's got better color grading, Filmora or Movavi? Filmora is better on color grading. Movavi has some color grading. I'll be honest with you, it's just not as good as Filmora's. But Movavi had all the keyframing before Filmora ever did, and the keyframing is better on, though the keyframing is getting better on Filmora. Movavi still beats it on keyframing. So it's, one of those things. Color grading, Filmora is going to beat all day. For overall, DaVinci beats everybody. DaVinci Resolve was designed as a color grading tool. It's the industry standard. It beats everybody, including Adobe, for color grading. And they have a free version, but they limit some of the features you can get to. But still, it's It's a great software, such a great software. Oh, so you can audio keyframe? Yeah. How can you audio keyframe? Go to my channel. I talked about this. I actually showed how to do it. I showed the audio keyframing earlier. Watch the replay, and I showed exactly how to do it. But I also on my channel audio keyframing. Typed it into the search bar. You'll absolutely see how to do it exactly. Super simple. Look at these questions. How much do you earn on YouTube? How much do you earn? What do you make for a living? How much do you get paid? Not a lot, I'll tell you that. I mean, I think I've showed my numbers before. It's very hard to make money on YouTube. One of the things that, and I'll be here, let's get frank. One of the things that I have a global audience. So I have a lot of people that in the community that I cater to that are in like places like India, Indonesia, and they're very low markets for CPM, pennies. Like if the amount of money I get from someone watching a video from the United States versus someone watching a video in India, I'll make 20 times as much from the same view from someone from the US. And Filmora is very popular in India, very popular. It's popular in the US too. I'd like to think I'm part of the reason I've helped them become more popular. But a lot of people in India have used Filmora. It just caught on there. Just a place where people really have caught on to Filmora. So a lot of those videos that I've made on Filmora don't earn me a lot of money because they get a lot of views from countries that just don't have a lot of CPM. The advertisers aren't spending money to advertise in India, Indonesia, Pakistan. They're spending all the money to advertise in the United States, Great Britain, Australia, places like that, places that have like a really strong economies that just have a lot of money where there's more buyers. People tend to buy more often. That's not an insult on any country. I've always said I was never into YouTube just for the AdSense money. So on a good year, it's not a lot. I might make $400 or $500 a week in AdSense money, which sounds, to some people that's a lot of money. But I'm a 55-year-old guy with a family and a mortgage and all of that stuff. So, it might be, it might be 20 grand a year, give or take, maybe 18 to 24,000, somewhere in there, depending on which content's being served out. That's kind of starving wages around here. You can't do very much with it. A car costs you more than that in the United States. So, and it would barely cover anything in my house. So most of the money I get is from sponsorships. That's why I bring a lot of the stuff that I like. I like Filmora. I made a deal with Filmora. I like Movavi. Movavi was the very first sponsor on my channel. We made a deal. We worked together. So I can make the kind of content I want to make. And then wonderful people in the chat who send me super chats and things like that. That's how I make my real money, working with companies like StreamYard, again, Spreadshop, who sponsored this particular live stream. Really fantastic. I get other companies in there to help support the thing that I do. Because if I had to rely just on AdSense, I'd be in trouble. I'd be in big trouble. Because I used to be a general contractor, so I made a solid amount of money doing that. And when I decided to do this full time, it was like, how much? How much do I, even as a silver play button artist, I'm getting up to just short of 200,000 subscribers, maybe 187 or something. There's not a lot of money in AdSense. You really need to, what did I say? 55? I'm 55. Meg's right. I'm 54. I'll be 55 in September. I'm getting older by the minute, hon. I'm getting older during this stream. I've aged. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Rahul, you're from India. There's a lot of a big part of this community, a good half of this community, there are people from India and around that area. And I get some of the best questions, such great audience members from that area. So I'm, love from Pakistan. See right here. There we go. 1K subscribers, jams without videos. Good luck. Good luck doing that without videos. Love from Pakistan. Keep it up. Yeah, Pakistan. A lot of Pakistan people here. Pakistanis. Got a lot of people from India here. I love our community. So learning all of these video editing tricks and sharing them with different people out there from different parts of the country. That's why I always try to time these streams where maybe it's later for some of you guys, but it's earlier for me. Little tricky, but I try to get them in. But global audience, trying to learn all of these simple editing techniques so that every one of you can start making money on YouTube too, right? Make better videos, start getting your channels monetized, grow those channels, get some income. Super important. I really try to put all that stuff together so that every one of you guys out there can do the very same thing I did, is start doing this as a career. Which microphone is that? This one is the Shure SM7B. Pretty good sounding mic. I like it. It's got some good tone to it. Question, do you have info videos about how to get sponsors? I'd love to have them help me pay to get my car. Yeah, you're also 54. Good. You're not 55? We could start lying apparently in this stream. In my channel memberships group, That's where I talk about that stuff. I don't have videos on my channel about sponsors, but I do have members only content where I not only show how to get sponsors, I show how to put together an entire media kit and show people how to build a kit and approach. That's what we talk about in my private group, where I teach people more stuff than I would on my channel. It's a deeper dive where I work with those creators to really grow their channels more rapidly. So that's where that stuff would exist. If you're interested in it, it may not be available in all areas, but underneath this live stream, if you see a join button, click that join button and you can join. It's $4.99 a month, pretty affordable. And we do real deep dives in the membership group. All right, listen, I'm going to cut this off here. I've been going for a while. I really appreciate you guys hanging around. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for the great questions. If you have any questions I didn't get to, drop them in the comments below if you're watching this now or in the replay, and I'll make sure I get down there and I'll address any of those questions that you might have had that I couldn't get to here. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. It's been fun for me. Let's get back out there and start making some videos, and I'll see you out on YouTube. Peace.